Hey everybody, welcome back to another daily creative challenge. How's everybody doing? This is going to be week number 2, daily creative challenge number 5. And I just want to welcome everybody for being here with me. I already see a lot of activity on the chat. Tim, Elise, Carlos, Chad, Marilyn, how are you guys doing? Anna Brackett is back. Anthony, Valentina. Great to see you all with me on this Monday morning. Monday morning if you are in the US. I get this later in the afternoon if you're in Europe or somewhere else. Let me know in the chat where everybody is. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I know we have people from all over the world. I know we have some people, just because I know who they are, from Germany. I know we got some people from England. We got some people from Phoenix, Arizona, Robin. So yeah, we got people from everywhere joining us today. If this is your first time joining us, make sure that you go into the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page, where you'll see this beautiful page here, and you'll see this big blue button. Make sure that you click on this button so that you can take the challenge with me. We have 5 more to go, including today. And for today's challenge, you do have to go into this page and, and scroll down to the bottom of the page to where it says 3D title. We're going to design a 3D movie title using layer styles. We're going to recreate the Lion King movie poster title. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. I'm sure most of you probably saw the original cartoon, but as you may know, there was a recent remake that came out about 2 weeks ago, and that's the movie title that we're going to redesign. So if you've seen the movie, let me know in the comments what you thought. I'm still so on it. I thought the graphics were great. I'm a big fan of the original movie. I think that movie came out when I was in middle school, so I have a lot of nostalgia with it. So I don't know if I'm ever gonna love the new one as much as I love the old one, but the graphics are excellent. And we're just going to redesign that movie title effect by using layer styles. So make sure that you come into this page, click on the Get Started button so that you go into Dropbox, and from Dropbox you can download this starter PSD. So you do have to go here. But yeah, I'm looking at the chat again. We got a lot of people from a lot of places: Colombia, Auburn, New York, Florida, Moscow, Chicago, Atlanta, Bulgaria, Margate, Florida, Southern Oregon, West Virginia, Wales, Tampa, Florida, Maui, Hawaii, Brazil, New Orleans, a whole bunch of places. Thank you everybody for joining me. I'm really excited to have all of you here from all over the world. It's super exciting, and I hope that you enjoyed today's stream, where again we're going to recreate the 3D movie title from the movie The Lion King. Make sure that you go into behance.net/challenge so that you challenge/Photoshop so that you can download this 3D title get started file. Also, while you're here, you may want to click on this button, chat the community, or go into this link right above my head. That's the Discord community page, which is, I thought I had it up. Oh yeah, here it is. The Discord community page, and let me bring it up so you guys can see that one right there. So you guys could see the current challenge tab here on the left, and you can see what people have been doing with the challenges that we've been working with. This is the first one, a pen drawing effect. This is removing distracting objects from the background. It looks like they removed this piece, but as you can see, people are submitting their work. Me and the other Adobe mentors give feedback, and you guys can comment as well if you like. So I would highly recommend you coming in here and posting your work. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them here. There's also different tabs like the Ask a Question tab, the I know it's in here somewhere. There's the tips and there's a Pro Tips tab, Get Inspired tab, all these different things that you can do and interact with us. So I highly recommend going there. Once again, that's on Discord. Link is right up above my head, or you can go into the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page and scroll down after you download the file for today's stream and click on join us to chat with the community. So everybody, make sure that you're on here already. I'm just looking at the chat to see if there's any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, anything like that. Istanbul, Tunisia, Iran, Sweden, NYC. Hello from the UK. Hi everybody. It's so cool to see so many people from all these different places. We got somebody from Canada. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna get started with today's stream, and again we're going to need the file that is right here. Get started, behance.net, challenge Photoshop. Click on it, download it so you can follow along with me. So let me bring up Photoshop, and the file that you're gonna download is gonna look a lot like this. Yours will have a watermark. This is an Adobe stock image. You're free to work with the watermark version. You can obviously license it if you like, or use your own photo. The photo really doesn't matter. You're gonna see the effect that we're gonna create with it, and you can go outside and shoot your own photo. You can download one from Adobe Stock, get one from wherever you like. And we have this text here, and it reads Lion King, of course, which is the effect that we're trying to recreate today. And I found this font on fonts.adobe.com. So if you're a member of the Creative Cloud, you should be able to sync it to your Photoshop, and you should be able to edit the text. If not, you're gonna just work with essentially you won't be able to edit it. If you try to edit it, then the font will change to a font that you do have access to. So you can work with whatever font you like, or just work with this text, apply the effect that we're going to apply, and then you could use whatever font that you like, but make sure that you understand how the effect works first before you start worrying about fonts. So the first step was for me to figure out what the closest font I could find to the actual font. And the way that I did that is I actually used my good friends at fonts.adobe.com. So what I did is I found the original logo for the movie, and I clicked on this little camera icon, and I brought it in. And it should load up. If it doesn't load up, I'm not sure why. It's not loading up. See, this always happens live. It works perfectly when you're practicing it and then it doesn't load up. Let me try refreshing the page and see if it works this time. If not, then I guess I'll show you how to do it in Photoshop. I generally there we go. Now it's working. We needed to refresh the page. What that does is that analyzes the image, and you can click and drag on these points to let the website know where the font is that you're trying to track. You can do all this in Photoshop, but the reason that I like using the fonts.adobe.com page is because it gives us a little more flexibility, a few more options, and I prefer that. So I'll show you how to do it in Photoshop as well. But anyway, we have the text selected. I can click on next step. The website will analyze the image, and you'll notice that it recognized the text, Lion King. I can click on next, and it will show me a list of all these different fonts that it thinks are similar to the ones that it analyzed. And you can change the type to something else, like, I don't know, we'll call it Cat King, for example, and you can see how the font changes. So you can scroll through the list of different fonts and see which ones you think will work for your design. For me, the one that I found that worked is the one that we selected already, that is on here, and it's called Cardo, and that's the font that I selected. If you wanted to do this in Photoshop, you can go into, actually let me show you one thing before I show you the differences with Photoshop. If I go back into fonts.adobe.com, you can see that I can increase and decrease the size of the text. As you already saw, I can change the text to something else. So it gives me that flexibility. I have different views as well. So as you can see, a lot of options, a lot of flexibility. In Photoshop, you can do something similar, but it just looks a little different. So if I go into File, Open, and open that same file, I can go into Type, Match Font, and I can use these handles to select the font that I want to keep. And as you can see, I get a list of the different fonts that Photoshop thinks are similar to what I selected. The downside is that I don't have a lot of flexibility in changing the text to something else, so I really can't compare it to the text that I'm working with. So that's the reason why I prefer using the fonts font.adobe.com page as opposed to the match font feature in Photoshop. It works well, but I just prefer more options. So it's up to you what you use. They both work, and you can use both to sync the font into Photoshop. But anyway, one last thing I wanted to mention about fonts.adobe.com in general is like, okay, well, this is cool and all, but I have to be a member of the Creative Cloud to use it. Like, why can't I just go to like, what is it, like 1000fonts.com or whatever those websites are? You can certainly do that, especially if you're a student and you're just learning. But if you're doing professional work, if somebody's giving you money to design something, I wouldn't do that, because just like a photo, fonts have artistic licenses. So if you use a font that you don't have a license to use and you use it for commercial purposes, there's a possibility of whoever owns that font to at one point sue you or your client. With fonts.adobe.com, whatever you use on your projects you can use. There's no legal issues. It's very simple. Licenses are very simple, much like Adobe Stock. You can just download an image and use it on your project, and you don't have to worry about the legalities of it. Again, you can use the free sites for fun, for learning purposes, no problem. But if you start doing commercial work where people are paying you money to do something, it's always a good idea to just make sure that you and your client are safe. So that's one very good reason why fonts.adobe.com is so good. Just like Adobe Stock, you don't have to worry about all that extra stuff. But anyway, let's start with the project. I think I talked a little too much about the fonts. So this is basically what we're going to recreate. This is a low resolution version of it. This is what the final result will look like inside of Photoshop. And this is what you should have downloaded. So we have background fill layer that you can double click on the thumbnail and change the color to anything that you want. I'm just going to work with black. And we're going to work with this text layer called Lion King. And we're going to work with this image that is going to be our texture. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a texture based on this image. So I'm just going to right click on it and select duplicate layer. And under document, I'm going to select new. So this duplicate layer opens up in a brand new document. There it is. And I'm going to right click and rasterize the layer, because I don't want it to be linked to the Creative Cloud, because I'm gonna start cloning and healing pixels and things like that. So I'm gonna edit this image. Then I want this image to be exactly the same. I want the canvas to be the same size as the image. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hold Control on Windows, Command on the Mac, and click on the layer thumbnail to make a selection around the layer. Then go into Image, Crop, and it just crops it in. So that's what I want. Control D on Windows, Command D on the Mac to deselect. So this is our image. And by the way, double clicking in the hand tool fits the image to screen. So I want to use this cracks as a texture for the text that we're going to work with. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use the lasso tool, and I'm going to remove these areas that really don't work like that don't look like the way I wanted them to. I'm more interested in areas like these, but not the corners. So I'm just selecting the corners with the lasso tool. And then I'm gonna go into Edit, Fill, and I'm going to fill with Content Aware. And Photoshop does a really good job of removing that, removing those areas. If you wanted to create just a little more randomness and just not have this big white space there, what you can do is you can use the patch tool, which we saw in one of our challenges. I think it was challenge number 2. And what I showed you to do with this tool in challenge number 2 was to like basically remove a blemish, right? You can click and drag this somewhere else and it removes the distraction, a blemish, whatever it is. But I don't want to do that in this case. In this case, I want to do the opposite. So I'm going to change it to destination. So watch what happens. If I click this and drag it over, it copies the texture. So you could use the patch tool to remove the distractions and blemishes like you saw on challenge number 2, or you could use it to add different textures to an image. So what I did here is just duplicated that crack. I'm not going to use this one because it's too close. I'm just going to use another one from like a different area. So maybe just select something like here, drag it over, and just put it like right about here, just so that we have more cracks throughout the image, so that the image just doesn't seem too flat. and maybe I'll add one more like right over here, just to add a little bit of randomness to it, just so that it's not so flat. But that's a really cool technique. Remember, destination is where you take the texture and apply it somewhere else, and source is more like, oh, I want to remove a blemish, for example, or distraction. For example, I want to remove that distraction, drag it over to an area that has no distractions, and release. So you can do both with this tool. It's a really powerful tool. Highly recommend using it. Once again, Control D, Command D in the Mac to deselect. What we're going to do now is we're going to offset the image so that we can see if the image has a seam, because we don't want the seam. We don't want those harsh lines. So I'm gonna go into Filter, Other, Offset, and just adjust the offset of the image. See that? See how there's a seam there? There's a seam here. So I'm just gonna try to get the center of the seam. I'm trying to get the center of the image to be the center of the seam. So I'm just gonna now use the quick, the rectangle tool rather, and make a selection like so, and another selection like so, while holding Shift so that I keep both my selections. And then I'll use Shift Backspace. That's the shortcut key to bring in the fill window. Earlier we went into Edit and Fill, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Shift and Backspace. That's Shift Delete on the Mac. And fill with Content Aware, just to try to get rid of that seam. And I'll use the Patch tool again with Destination, and I'm just going to add just some cracks there on that seam. I just don't want a big seam on the image, so something like that. Just fine tune it accordingly. And notice that I'm not spending too much time. I'm just trying to remove any visible seam, like so. So now we have this image that has no seam. I'm not really too concerned about the change in colors. We're not gonna really use it for color. So just think about this image as being black and white. I mean, in fact, I can press Control Shift U, make it black and white, and work on it this way. It really doesn't matter. So now that I have my image, I'm gonna do Filter Offset one more time just to make sure that there are no visible seams and it looks like we're okay. So I think this will work. What I'm gonna do now is go into Edit, Define Pattern, and we're gonna make this into a pattern. And I'm just gonna call it Rock Cracks Pattern, because that's what it is. And we're gonna go back into the working document, which is this one here. There it is. So now we got all the hard stuff out of the way, and now it's time to have some fun. We're gonna start adding some layer styles, and we're gonna try to make this look into something that looks like that. So let me just take a quick look at the chat just to see if there's any questions, and it looks like we're all good. A lot of people having fun in the chat. I like that. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is go into the text layer, and I'm just gonna right click on, or not right click, you can just click on the FX icon and click on blending options. It brings up the layer style window, and the first thing that I'll do is I'm just gonna bring the fill opacity down to 0, which will make the layer invisible. That's different than opacity. Opacity makes everything invisible. Fill opacity only makes the original pixels of the layer invisible, but if we start adding layer styles, then these layer styles will be the only visible things in whatever it is that we're applying the layer style to on that layer, essentially. So just to be clear, opacity hides all the pixels. Fill opacity only hides the original pixels of the layer. So it makes the original pixels invisible, and you can start adding layer styles, and that's the only thing that shows. So that's what we're doing. And I'm just gonna start by adding a color overlay, and the color that we're gonna add is a color that I already have predetermined. So you can just type in 41 for hue, 70 for saturation, and 98 for brightness, and press OK. What I'm gonna do now is disable it for a second, and then go into the gradient overlay, and make sure you click on default, so it's default, and I'm going to change it to normal, increase it, change the style to linear. So we want to go from bright to dark. I think actually, let me make sure it's going from white to black. I had a light gray as opposed to white, so make sure that you're going from pure black to pure white. and that's what we want. So that's what we're gonna have at the bottom. And what we're gonna do with the color overlay, the layer on top, we're gonna place that color on top of that gradient, and we're gonna blend it so that you can see the highlights and shadows with the blending mode. And the blending mode that we're going to use is linear burn, which is right here. I'm missing it. You guys see it? There we go, linear burn. We're gonna use linear burn. And actually I want the shadow at the bottom, so I gotta go back into the gradient overlay and just uncheck reverse, and you can click and drag that linear burn so that the shadow part is at the bottom. Notice that my scale is pretty high up, which is what I want, and just drag it in sort of like that. And by the way, I just have like a default bevel for now. We're gonna work on it later, but for now I'm just using the default bevel. And you can see I'll reset it to default to make sure that it looks a lot like what you're looking at. So if I just enable it, you see that we get just a little bit of a highlight and all that fun stuff. So I'll press OK for now, and I'll zoom in just so that you can see what we're working with. See that? See how we created this nice little gradient? Pretty cool. What I'm gonna do now is go back and double click on bevel and emboss, and we're actually gonna click on texture. And that's gonna apply a texture, but it's gonna make it a texture that kind of affects the light. So it's gonna make it seem like if the surface of the text is not smooth, it actually has some depth to it and even some cracks using that texture that we made just a moment ago. So I'm just gonna go into the last texture, because that'll be the last texture is always the one that you created last. So it's the one we just made. So I'll click on the last one, and I can just change the depth to the negative values, and see how it starts creating that crack effect. See that? And you can adjust the scale. So maybe 75, and we start getting these cracks on the text, maybe 50. And you can decide what works better for your image. Just start adjusting the scale, and look at that, we already started getting those cracks that were found in the original Lion King text effect just by taking a photo from, in this case, Adobe stock, and just making sure that there were no seams, and then all those cracks start showing up on the text. What I'm gonna do now is just apply that 3D effect by double clicking on bevel and emboss, and from here we can just start adjusting the depth. See that? See how I adjust the depth? That changes the size of the bevel, and I'm gonna have to fine tune it too. So if I change the bevel and emboss, I have to go and change the scale, the depth as well. So don't fine tune the texture until the end. I just wanted to show you how it worked. Start with the bevel and emboss, and start adjusting the size and the depth accordingly, so that you're happy with it. And then go into the texture and start adjusting the depth of the texture so that the texture on the actual text looks the way that you want it. And from this point, what you want to do is, in this case I don't really have to, but if you wanted to, you can change where the light is coming from. This is what this little circle represents. You see that tiny little circle there? That little circle represents the light source. So if I click it to the right, notice how now the light source on the right, and everything in the text updates. So you can change that if you want to. I was happy with the angle being at 90, so I'll just leave it there. So I'll press okay. Actually, before pressing OK, one other thing I would recommend doing is try changing the blending mode from screen to like soft light, and see how the highlights change. Maybe try overlay or all the different blending modes, see which one you like best. Or you can change the color. So right now it's pure white, but maybe we'll make it like a light yellow, and press OK. The choice is up to you. Just keep adjusting the different options until you get something that looks good to your eye. With Photoshop, it's really easy to teach like what the tools do, like I just did here. The difficult part, that's where like the real magic happens, is with the fine tuning. So like I'm showing you all the tools, I'm showing you how they work, I'm showing you how you can apply them, but you're gonna need to spend some time on your own fine tuning them, making them look exactly the way that you want. So that's really where you're gonna have to spend the time. So I just right now just showed you the basic skills to get you from here to here, and the only difference from these two, obviously they look different, but the only real difference is that I spend maybe 30 minutes fine-tuning the depth of these adjusting the different light sources and all of that. So that's what you're gonna have to do on your own. You're gonna have to come in here and really start fine-tuning these sliders until you get the result that you want. Maybe in this case, I'll use a darker orange, for example, as opposed to a black. So just keep fine-tuning the image until you get the results that you're looking for. Let me see if there are any questions in the comments. I don't really see any. I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining me again for another stream. Let me bring up this page just one more time. Make sure that you go into the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page, click on the big blue button, and you can watch the other challenges that I've done so far. We got 4 more to go. Thank you so much for being with me today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Don't forget to go into the Discord app. Link is right up above my head. And go into the current challenges and upload today's and all the other challenges on here. Thank you so much, guys. I look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be talking to you guys again later. Bye.